Hi everyone. Hi Thomas. I've got Thomas
Hi.
Verschoren on the call today. Thomas is, among others, part of the Premium Plus team, Premier Zendesk partner in Europe, and also writing internal note. Anyone in the Zendesk community and customer service community as a whole will know Thomas. Thomas, hi, great to have you.
Hi, glad to be here.
We're playing Cards of Complexity in a bit, and we're diving today into a couple of things in the Zendesk ecosystem, especially everything around AI, the possibilities, current possibilities, future possibilities, and really how leaders can and practitioners can apply this in their organizations. Before we do that, we're jumping into a game of Cards of Complexity, which we'll do in a second. And before we do that, just would love to get a quick intro. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about your background and what brought you into customer service in the first place.
Yeah, I've been working with Zendesk as a product for I think 12 years now, 11, 12 years. And I actually come from IT retail. I used to sell Apple computers section. And in that job, I went from retail to, ended up being IT admin at the company, managing anything like servers and email and Wi-Fi and computers and Zendesk. That job was fun, but a bit too broad. I wanted to deep dive in something. I met the team at Premium Plus and I was like, well, I want to do that Zendesk tool, but for more customers than just my own company. So I dove into Premium Plus, and there you work with the Zendesk product, but then you discover that it's more than just a technical tool that you set up, but it's actually about companies solving problems, processes, and like helping them. Been doing that for a while now, and it's like, you meet a lot of aspects in the CX community about different problems that different customers are solving. And after a while, I started discovering that kind of reuse the same solutions for more than one customer, and you need to start documenting that. And I was playing around with the idea of, I want to get better at writing because it was always a weak spot for me. So I was like, instead of writing down the documentation for myself, why don't I put it publicly online? And then I can share it with the broader community. And if I do it wrong, people will probably tell me online that I do it wrong, which they did. And then I learn about Zendesk too. So I've been writing for 3 years now on internal notes. And I kind of try to play that game of being, on one side, you have all the new announcements. You need to get up to date, up to speed as a consultant, as a partner. Customers expect that. On the other side, what I find is that, documentation is one thing. It's very technical, very low-key documented. Marketing is another aspect. It's about where do we go? What are the trends? But I kind of like that middle gap as a consultant because it's like turning promises from sales and marketing into reality. And I'll try to play in that game with my blog a bit.
So, and that's, you probably have tons of followers these days. And probably why practitioners turn to internal note to figure out where to take this from. Okay, I've understood the documentation, I've done the basics. Now what can I do? How do I get closer to that kind of marketing sales vision? Would love to dive into this in a second because especially in the world of AI right now, I think this is more true than ever that there's probably a lot to be done to get from what we're saying in the documentation and the actual tooling to what the vision is that everybody already has in mind today, which is one of the beautiful things of this world. Before we do that, I'll share the Cards of Complexity with you because that's where we'll dive into in a second.
Yeah.
So let me share my screen and see if you see this. And can you see this? Perfect. Set of cards against complexity, and basically for everyone who hasn't listened into this podcast before, just a brief introduction. Cards Against Complexity, similar concept as Cards Against Humanity. If you know the game, it's quite straightforward. We've got one question or one sentence here on this on the left-hand side, and Thomas will get 3 options to answer or complete that sentence. They will probably not be perfect answers, but we'll find our way through this. And I'll get you started with this. Internal Note grows to 1 million monthly visitors and subscribers after you publish an article on handling complex ticket escalations using astrology, mapping out customer journeys with ancient treasure maps, or training agents to respond to complaints with perfectly crafted haikus. And for anyone who is not aware of what haikus are, it's Japanese poems that have a very specific, intricate, beautiful, simplistic structure. So, or potentially complex. What's your choice, Thomas?
I have to go for the middle one.
Mhm.
Purely because I'm a big Indiana Jones fan. And I think doing something with customer journeys and making it like a joke article about Indiana Jones and treasures and journeys seems to be like something fun to write.
There's a lot of fun in there, right? And Indiana Jones is this character that, I don't know, makes this a bit like we can see this come to life. Anyone who's reminded of the good old movies and stories and around this might love that. And there's real adventure in customer journeys. There's all kinds of adventure if we're going through
True
them
that.
ourselves, if we try to adjust them. So maybe a treasure map. A follow-on question: What's the treasure map about? Like, where would you what would you put in there to map that customer journey? Like, let's imagine a bit.
Well, I think it's about if you have a journey, your customer wants to achieve something in your company or with your company. Could be info on a product, could be getting a refund, could be buying something, and then that if you look at those traditional treasure maps, it's about here's a shark, here's a mountain, here is a cave, is quicksand you need to drive through, and then put the idea further. If you look at what a customer needs to do in companies now, it's about jumping through different departments, or it's about entering a form which is longer than the average page with information just to get contact to an agent. Loop around the same tree 3 times again because you need to explain it again and again. So I think like getting a good customer experience is about providing them like a direct route to where they want to go and not like that giant treasure hunt map around the world. Something like that, I think. Yeah.
Cool. I have an image in mind already, and for anyone building customer journeys, maybe try out the treasure map approach from now on. We definitely will need to think about what we do with this. Cool. Thanks for your choice. Thanks for taking me a bit through this thinking. And the treasure hunt these days is all around not only the customer journey itself, but everybody's trying to find the way to get AI in there, right? And what I find interesting in the current market, and maybe tell me a bit about your experience here, is the beauty is a lot of customers have understood what the power of AI is, and everybody uses it day to day in their daily interactions, right? It's almost like, yes, we have great expectations of customer experience because we have day to day good experiences in our lives or bad ones. And it is almost, to me, it's like 10 times that thing with AI, because now everybody learned what ChatGPT can do, and now everybody has to do the same in their businesses. What's your experience from maybe starting from what customers expect of help desk, customer service solutions like Zendesk when it comes to AI?
Well, I hear a lot of our customers coming saying we want to do something with AI, or often it's like board member management saying we should do something with AI. Most of the customers that I talk to, like the basics everyone has. They have an omnichannel approach, they have a help center, they have an agent inbox, they have that one. What I hear is if you turn the table around, you kind of need to ask, what's the problem you're facing today? That could be one is we have way too many tickets and we're like, we can't handle them. The second one is more about, well, the tickets are okay, but we spend too much time on a ticket. We can't handle the workload because it takes too long. And then the third is more about, we also heard that at the AI Summit earlier this week, there is a lot of data or knowledge or like improvements in your company hidden in those tickets, but nobody has time to read 1,000 conversations, or at least I hope they don't have. So how do we get better in getting insights out of that data? So what I do with customers, I say, hey, we want to use AI or Zendesk AI in my case, then it's like pinpoint, what do you want to fix? Want to do deflection self-service? Do you want to improve the agent? Or do you want to get insights? Or do you want to do the 3 of them? And that's kind of where for me the AI market is these days.
Yeah. And just because Internal Note is also very Zendesk focused, let's really dive a bit into Zendesk. And I mean, a lot of exciting things have happened there. The Zendesk team had quite a few announcements, not only this week and last week, this week digitally, last week in person in New York, but also also in the months before. Where do you see Zendesk right now positioned and the product when it comes to AI? Like, what are the real like strengths and possibilities? I know you've also just written a bunch of internal note posts around this, so this must be very much top of mind for you.
Yeah. Well, full disclaimer, I'm probably biased in my answers here, but that's due to the nature of what I do. For me, if I go back to those three issues that I see customers having with their ticket handling, their customer care handling, well, one thing I see Zendesk being very strong in these days is like they leverage existing knowledge in the company, like your knowledge articles, your thousands of replies you already gave customers, and they try to use that data more and more to assist customers. So one end is, well, they have their chatbots or AI agents, as they're called now, really putting like an automated first line of defense there. Like if I ask, what's the difference between an apple and a tomato, the bot will pull from our data sources and explain the difference very succinct and very personalized for the customer. Hybrid flows are very cool these days, where you can say, well, if I ask for an order status, you just need to tell the customer the status. You don't want to tell them, go to this page, click here, go here, go here. You just say, being delivered tomorrow, here's a tracking code. So those kind of like frontline automations, I see them as being very strong in now. Especially since it's built on what a company already has, because no company wants to start with like the empty box. You don't want to create flows. That takes too long. If you have a Help Center article, that content should be repurposed in a bot. So that's one of the strengths I see Zendesk across email, across chat, and apparently now over voice, being very strong now. Second part, which is actually, well, a long time in early access, but new, is you have Microsoft with their coding copilot. You have ChatGPT as your, I have a question and it answers. What they have now is a copilot for agents. Where basically, it doesn't replace the agent, because that's the job of a chatbot, deflection, but it kind of sits next to an agent. And imagine if a customer says, I need a refund, then their copilot will look at a procedure that you write in like human text, like to XYZ, and the copilot will start writing content, replies, agent just reads if it's okay, submits. If they need to do the refund in the backend system, they don't need to go to that other system, but the copilot will do it over API, and the agent basically says yes or no, and they override it. So it really is about helping agents do their job quicker. Or if you turn it around, if you're on board in a company, you don't want to read a book of procedures. You just want to dive in. So having like a system there that assists, those are like the two, for me, big things that are playing on, like leveraging existing content and using it either to deflect in a bot or have it like surface for an agent to their job easier, guided by processes, of course.
And that's now happening in terms of adoption. Like, first people are using this, right? Like I'm just coming back from a few Zendesk Roadshow events this week. There's a few next week here in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, especially. What we saw there is like a lot of people ask the question, okay, and now what? You've got the people that say, oh, I want to do something with AI, and you explain to them, oh, these are the options. Then they say, okay, great, and how can I use Zendesk? Well, you've got the Zendesk. How do you, like, for anyone who's in the early beginnings of that journey, and then we'll go to the other part, but if you get started, like, how do you get people started with this? Like, what's the pragmatic way if you work with an existing customer, or if you were to advise somebody who's a like practitioner and just wants to get started and is not sure how to do it? Where would you get started?
For me, it all starts with the Help Center or your knowledge, because Help Center is a website, but your knowledge. If you as a company have your top 10, top 20 self-use cases like written down, that's when you can get started with AI. Because if you link that content to an AI agent, then every time a customer asks about how do I reset my password, the bot can feed from that. By definition, those top 10, top 20 will not get you anywhere like to 40, 50, 60% deflection. But the most common questions your bot can answer. What the bot can answer will go to your agents.
Mhm.
And then for me, the next step is to start using either automatic intent detection or manual categorization to start looking at what's the next 20. And then you put those up front. You kind of start like detecting what's the high peak items, and you put those up front, and then you deflect more and more. Could be that you detect things where you say, well, we can't give that to an AI agent because it requires human touch, it needs approval, it's complex. But then you need, and I think Nextmatter is also aware that then you need processes, because then you need to start writing down what are the steps to do this.
Mhm.
And then you can give it to more like a co-pilot and say, well, in order to do a refund, I need an order number, a reason, and the customer needs to pick between a voucher or just credit. And then you write down the process, and then you will see on the other side your agent workload go down because the system automates more. And then it becomes that circle of get insight in what goes wrong. If it goes wrong, fix it with the procedure, fix it with documentation, or fix it within the broader company, because often it's like collaborating with other departments. And then hopefully you'll see that frontline go better again. That's how we approach it, scalable customers.
And that's so this is getting me started from that kind of initial set and is getting me to the next percentage points, right? Now let's go maybe and move from the documented features and the things that people anyways are doing to like, how do you take this even one step further? Like what's really required now to succeed, let's say in larger organization, right? We've got the customer service team doing things, getting the refund data already. But then you want to do more. So you already mentioned taking in other teams. Obviously, I love to hear that, right? That's always the Nextmatter a way where we say, okay, agents, if they're human or if they're an AI agent, they need to work with an external organization, with other teams, with partners, with other systems. So you need that end-to-end workflow that extends there. That's one thing that I'm very aware of, and maybe something you're seeing. What else is required there?
Ownership is like a big thing we're seeing now. Like, when we have companies that go over that first, like we called it, like the first 20% of like, we got all the content in front. You run often in scenarios where the person answering the email or the ticket needs to get approval from somewhere. And that delays the process a lot because you need to get to that person, get approval, come back.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes more a discussion on like the company level of what's required to get approval to get a refund, or what are the conditions that we can give a refund, so that maybe the agents can decide on themselves, and then the waiting time goes away, or you can maybe fully automate it. So that's one of them that I notice a lot about, like, just make sure that you don't have like internal processes stopping efficiency. The second one is like asking why you do certain things a certain way. Like, you could have, like, we all know those forms where you need to enter your birth date in order to get a refund. Well, why is that field there? Should we need that field? Do we remove it? And just start looking at how can we make that process more easy. Those are, for me, two big ones. The third is, well, if you have a web shop, if you need to take retail as an example, because everybody buys something online these days. If you have a web shop and you need to get a refund or return an order, that should be automated. You should ask the people who built that tool, what's the API to automatically send out our return form document, or what's the API to get a refund, or how do I automatically apply a voucher to an order with a click of a button? Because that way, once again, automation leads to efficiency, less repeated work, better for agents, etc. So those are like the three for me, like approval, change processes, and integrate.
Yeah, that's really like, and I love what I love about this, right? Even in an AI world, we're going back to basics, right? And this is really like, get that right in collaboration with the agent in an end-to-end workflow that works with Zendesk, and you get something that really works, and you get those additional percentage points up. Now we're in the very beginning of this whole AI journey, right? Like, maybe to round this off, like what are you getting most excited about in the world of Zendesk AI, about AI and customer service in general? Because we see the early beginnings of, let's take a knowledge base and answer questions, but what will be the exciting moments that you're looking forward in the next 1, 2, 3 years?
Well, this might sound geeky, but the coolest thing I saw in the last half year is I'm used to building bots where you had to enter the training phrases. So like the 10 versions of I want to exchange my order, return my order, get another one, and like you need to train that system. The last half year, what I've been seeing, well, in Zendesk and also in other tools, is that the system will just grasp what the customer is talking about. You don't need to enter those training phrases anymore. It's just like Zendesk calls it zero training. There are other names for that, but just if I type, I want to change my booking, I don't need to create an intent anymore about bookings. The system will just grasp what the customer wants to do. And then there are 3 options. Either the bot knows about it already, which hopefully it does and can answer. Either it goes to an agent who knows how to handle it, or it's a giant red flag that you need to create something about changing those. But the fact that you don't need to create the intent in order to handle it also means that you lose that bias that you can only measure what you know. But since the system will automatically know what a ticket is about, it can surface that now and say, you didn't know about people asking X, but I do. Fix it. And that's something really cool I see now, like the hidden information becoming more and more visible.
Cool. Very, very exciting. And I think we see the early innings of this. There's still like things to figure out. Still, I think very good reasons to follow internal node, even if there's no treasure maps. And if there's other things around AI, I think that's something, if you want to be on the forefront for this. And I mean, we're definitely we're definitely absolutely followers of your blog. And I know others are, because we want to get that kind of additional insight beyond what Zendesk offers and see where we can stretch the possibility, especially in the world of AI where things are moving fast. I think very critical to get there. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective. I think plenty of insights as well for practitioners and CX leaders here on how to get started with AI, but also maybe how to push this a bit further in the next few steps. Anyone who's interested in internal node, by the way, I highly recommend following. There's a link down here in the comments. And otherwise, Thomas, have a great week. Great to chat again, and looking forward to what's coming next. I know we can follow you at internal node, but I also know that working together with the Zendesk customers will show us actually, and will help implement some of what we talked about today.
Great. Nice talking to you.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.